Thanks for tuning in to the Basketball Blokes podcast with Benny, Banksy and Boydie, part of the Blokes Podcast Network, which is a place where mates create. Visit the website at www.blokespodcast.com for more information.
G'day listeners, you're back with Benny, Banksy and Boydie, the Basketball Blokes, dribbling all things Aussie hoops and NBL Fantasy. And what are we doing this week, Benny?
This is the review show. Weak side, strong side, in the zone or fading away. It's time to face up and look over and back at the round just gone. This is the NBL Fantasy Post-Round Review. All right, fellas, that should get you pumped up. You know, it's the last time I'm going to play it. This is the Pundown. Let's give this a little bit of an explainer here. As you know, from one of the very important ladies in my life, one of the many. Hey, integrated virtual assistant. How are you today? It's Benny here from the Basketball Blokes podcast. Are you able to let everyone know what a pundown is?
A pundown is a rundown with a pun.
Do you think Boydie and Banksy will be able to understand that?
No, you have to be a pretty ordinary bloke not to know that.
Okay, now we've got Banksy. Bring you in here, mate. So we've got the very first pun down from Trevi G 82, and this is a fantastic rule for all pun downs, I think. Fire away, Banks.
So Trevor Goodison, what did he give us? So make sure you don't set the bar low. A good pun is not vague, but when executed right, is simply magnificent.
Magnificent. Boy, Banksy, I'm very happy with that, mate. We've got another one there. Boydie, do you want to read out the next one? There's a few in here, like this work by Joel.
Do I have to read people's names? I'm not good with names. Here we go. Kinnan, Joel.
Oh, jeez. Here
Joel
we go.
Mouth. Never thought it was risque putting the C on Nick. Glad I did, though. Lucky for me, Dario was in the hunt for some redemption, too. Finally, I was glad I acted like a beer and got some hops on.
Well, we're going to touch on some of the relevant.
Hang on, Banks.
As well.
Hang on, Banks. Listen to this. It's been 2 weeks. Here it comes. Train's been delayed, but it's arriving at the station. Hang on, boys. It is the Scotty Hopson Hype Train. All right. What were you going to say, Banks? Were you going to talk about Hopson or not?
Well, I was going to touch on the other boys, but we sort of skipped over them. But interesting thing about Hopson, obviously we spoke about how we were all going to jump on last round. But if you, what do you think his ownership is at, boys?
I don't know. I didn't actually look. I thought he was too much of a lock. I thought everyone would have him.
Well, I had a look before. He's just 10%.
Wow.
Okay, so what's that, around 600 mark or something?
Yeah, 752.
Yeah, 10% of the competition. It seemed from Twitter there that half the competition was bringing him in last week. But as we expected, he scored 50 and 35. He went up 78K. And I think we saw enough over his first 2 games on the weekend to know that he's going to be the man at the breakers. And, you know, with 6 games over the next 3 rounds, I think you do need him in your team.
It's not too late to get on that train.
You're right. I think he's a lock, but we talk about that more in the preview, I guess. We had another one from Joel as well, Andrew Wogat.
Yep. Whoa. So this is the Andrew Wogat segment, and yeah, Joel was a little gutted that he didn't have Andrew in the side, as were we all, fellas.
Yeah, I mean, he dominated. What he ended up with the top score for the round, 155. There was quite a few people that captained him. Pretty much the whole of the top 20 have captained him, and that's why they're in front, because they've got a good 50 points on everyone else, pretty much. So yeah, he was obviously the number 1 player by a long way.
An interesting one there as well, boys. Bogut now 13% owned. He's actually more owned than Hopson. But what I did notice, even after that big 155 over the round, he actually still dropped in price. He actually went down 74k. So
Yep.
who actually knows how this herbs and spices price formula is working these days? Because even after that, it seems to be even different on what we used to last year.
Yeah, rolling average, and I think you were saying that it was the most recent games. You gave another example where the most recent game was really good, and the price went up despite a poor previous game, and this is just flipped on its head. The fact that so we're expecting obviously a decent price rise, you'd assume, pending how he goes this week, but who knows regarding price. But we also got another pun in late from Riley DT, who's normally pretty good with these so far. He said, Bo, get me a time machine so I can put him in my team.
Not bad, not bad.
Something we all wish we could do, but let's go back in the time machine. It's a real jerk move by Bogut to have done what he's done to us, because we're supposed to be giving out fantasy advice. No doubt he would have been on our radar, but for those who don't know, why don't you just talk about what was the situation leading into last week? Because he was not in Banksy's captains. He was not on our radar.
And that was purely for the fact of Sydney Kings themselves putting out tweets that he was a game time decision all week, and even in the lead up to game day, hours before the game, I think they even tweeted that he was a game time decision as well. I think even Calvin from Dream Team Talk mentioned on one of our tweets the captain's poll that he was going to select him as a captain, and we gave him a bit of a flag there as well to suggest that, you know, maybe you should reconsider. Bogut might not even line up, and to do what he did, he, as you said, he wasn't even in our top 4 captains, but that was purely based on the uncertainty around his status.
The other thing I think with him is the first 2 weeks, obviously, they were only on singles, and he had a 38 round 1 and then a 21 in round 2. So I think he was injured in that second game, and that's why there was a bit of a conjecture as to whether he would play the 2 games this round, just finished. But obviously he did, and he's played well against New Zealand, who are maybe a little bit weaker in that big man. So they don't have a Sean Long or something like that he has to defend. So that was probably the key in the end.
Good point. He had a great matchup, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot more in the preview show. But a lot of people are starting to ask, is it mission get Bogut this week or next week? And we're probably not going to see him a lot cheaper than he's at 2.11 mil as it stands.
All I want to say is that I've got a pretty dodgy back, and I want to know who his physio is, because he was saying that he had a crook back, and even at times during the games he was sort of moving around, but he's just a class above, and especially against that New Zealand team, he was just vacuuming up the boards, man. It was something that sucked to watch. Not owning the man, never mind. Moving on to one of his teammates, and someone that Boydie and I have been holding on for. We got something a little special. If you didn't know, DD's back.
Yo, NBL 20 coming at your ears even though you ain't ready. Jack, drop in the rhymes. People, blokes, drop in the dimes. This ain't no cupcake league. Homicide, he knows what I mean. There's Bogut, there's Where, Delish. Who's this? Guess who's back? Back again. DD's back, Lusada. Tell a friend. Yep. DD's back, DD's back, DD's back, DD's back, DD's back, DD's back, DD's back. Didn't see him coming. No. He's out and running. No. But he can't speak English.
Fact.
That is a fact, and that was awesome, seen by Jack. So if anyone wants to contribute in that manner, we definitely encourage it. Rewording any song lyrics, you can email us at basketballblokes@gmail.com. And I mean, this is a man we want to talk about, Boyd. So what were your thoughts on DD? Because I know that some people weren't too hot on him, on how he played, to be honest.
No, look, so you had a 25 and a 33 in their doubles there, but I think the key thing with him is he put up a lot of shots. I think his 2-pointers, he missed 10 in the first game and then 13 in the second game. So they were obviously negative points, which hurt his score a lot. I think that's something that's going to grow with confidence for him. And look, I ain't dropping him anytime soon. I think he's going to be a good pickup, and for the whole season, he'll probably be on my team for the whole season. So there's plenty of doubters out there, but that's okay. I think he put what you would expect from someone who's playing his first game, I guess, in the league.
And as a non-owner, I've got my eye on him to even consider bringing him in over the next couple of weeks as well, before his price increases. So I think you boys were certainly onto something, and just really unlucky we didn't see him line up in the first couple of rounds.
Yeah, look, and I think that's part of it now. We're committed, right, Boyd? You hope he does well and hope that his ownership's lower than it probably should be.
Well, I think I already called it out. I'm probably a long way back, but I think one of my big calls in one of our pre-season early podcasts was that I thought he'd score more fantasy points over the season than the other two next stars. So obviously that's not looking good at the moment, with LaMelo being the top fantasy scorer in the league at present, noting that he has played the extra game than a lot of the other top sort of 5 players. But I think DD's going to be good. I like him. And especially Lish is out at the moment. So Lish is out for a couple of months. So that news came out today. So you'd think as DD got the start on the 2 games versus New Zealand on the weekend, you'd think that would happen again unless they bring in an injury replacement for him, noting that Sydney does have a import spot up their sleeve still. Depending on that import, obviously. There's some rumours I saw on Twitter, thanks to a little bit of a sneaky tweet from Deshaun Taylor. So it'd be interesting if he is the player, obviously more of a point guard. So I guess watch this space, but I like DD.
Beautiful. Anything else to add, Banks?
No, it's just interesting to see that obviously a lot of people must have held on and hoping he repays the faith. He's still 26% owned, so he's still one of the most highly owned players in the whole comp, funnily enough.
All right, fellas, moving on. The next I want to do is a group of 3, because I think that's where the discussion's going to be generated. So it's starting with the other next star that we've been waiting on, and that was RJ Hampton. So the question is, RJ Hampton on your bench? So the other players that are relevant to this discussion are obviously, here's Johnny Robertson, and the Cairns Taipans point guard, the smooth hot macchiato. So I think, fellas, I'm a Scott Machado owner, and I'm going to remain a Scott Machado owner. I don't see any rush personally if you've got Roberson or Machado to bring in RJ just yet. Thoughts?
I wish I held on to Machado because he was in my team pre-season start, but I foolishly fooled around with it too much, and now I'm paying for it. But I like hot macchiato as well. I'm not sure where has he got this week.
Adelaide, I think.
Adelaide and Melbourne. So a couple of good matchups.
Fast pace.
But could be high scoring sort of thing. So
that's what you'll benefit from. You're playing against those high, fast-paced teams. And he was in my season team the whole preseason, like you as well, Boydie. And Benny, I'd be hanging on to him as long as you can. He's a unique, believe it or not. He's only 8% owned as well.
You able to look up John Robertson's ownership while you're there, Banks? Because it'd be really interesting, because that was the decision. Obviously, went with Machado based on schedule, and a lot of people, I think, on teams that are coming through to us, fellas, do have Robertson. And
15%.
Okay, so a little bit more.
Well, he's almost twice as owned.
Yeah.
1,075 people compared to 583 with Macchiato.
So,
and if it wasn't for Ball and Hampton, I think we'd see a lot more ownership for those two as well.
Agreed.
So we're rolling with those guys. It'll be an interesting question coming up the following week. Obviously, LaMelo will be off his doubles, and these guys will as well. And then RJ, we'll get another look at RJ, thankfully. And I was pretty happy with RJ first up. Did you guys see RJ play? I just want to get your thoughts on RJ as well.
I didn't really see him play. No.
Okay.
Well, I did watch the Friday night game, but I had been participating in
You saw about 6 RJs.
I saw, yes, I'd had a couple of refreshments.
I watched a little bit of both of the games. I guess what I noticed is particularly that first game, he got a quick few steals. I think he was on a really good score at quarter time. And then he was sort of almost held back in the second half, I found, and especially down the stretch when, New Zealand were a chance of winning. I think in both games, he sort of sat out towards the end of the game. So I don't know if he's just being, eased in at this stage or whether the coach doesn't have confidence in him down the stretch. But it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks.
Just looking purely stats-wise, so he had 7 points in both games. He had, 3 rebounds in each game. One game he had 1 assist, one he had 3. He had 2 steals in both games, 1 3-pointer made in each game. So he's sort of consistent over that. He got 26 exactly in both games. So sort of consistent across the 2 games. But once again, first 2 games playing professional basketball. I'd like to see a little bit more from him. I think at this stage he'll come into my team, but I don't think, certainly it wasn't a negative sort of week for him, I think. That's sort of to be expected, that sort of score for his first game, I would say.
And what I'm really, really looking forward to, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, is his matchup against LaMelo Ball next round as well. So sure. I think we're going to learn a lot from that game when they go head-to-head. Yeah,
I think for a basketball point of view, I think LaMelo looks a little bit more flashy, but I think Hampton, just from what I've seen, and not very much, is just sort of a fundamental sort of a guy. So fundamental sort of point guard sort of a thing. So be interesting to see
silky to me.
Yeah, interesting to see what sort of what sort of road they both take from here.
All right. Either of you fellas, you both were an owner, I believe, want to take the next pun for discussion?
Bryce Cold Cotton. Yes, I was a owner, brought him in. 72 points for the round. Wasn't, as high as maybe I would have liked, looking at the 2 matchups that he had. But, a solid score nonetheless. And what was it? Probably it was in the top 10 for the week, was it? Just about.
Thereabouts,
around about that top 10 sort of thing for the week. So, obviously not actually that well owned, which is interesting. 26%. But
I was disappointed, and when you have a look there, even Damian Martin outscored Cotton over their doubles. So even Dario Hunt outscored Cotton. So I think my expectations were definitely higher. Definitely saw him outscoring those 2, and definitely, considering the matchups, he really should have scored 90 plus for us. But we know that first game was terrible from the Perth team as a whole against Cairns. But I'll certainly be looking to get him out this week and get him onto someone who can score that 100 plus.
Well,
interesting.
My initial writing of the Bryce Cold Cotton was not actually about his score. It was more about that dagger, ice in the veins to beat Melbourne United. Now, this is an interesting thing we have with fantasy. Were you both watching that game? Did you watch the shot?
I was.
Oh,
yeah.
he was huge, no doubt. And it's funny, isn't it, as you say?
Yeah, I was going to say, normally you like one of your players to make a bucket, right? He cost us extra basketball.
He did.
It probably would have been nice to get that OT.
Yeah. So, Bryce, not very good for you. So,
as a K captain owner as well for the round, it would have been nice because I think he was stuck on 8 rebounds, I think. So you would have thought with an extra couple of minutes there would have been, or extra for overtime, you would have thought K would have possibly got the double-double there and got us a few extra points.
Or at least itched us a little bit closer to that Bogut score.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Exactly my thoughts as well. Now, I mean, he doesn't really have too much form. Remember, he did foul Trimble on a 3-point play to actually create overtime for us last year, which was nice of him. But go back to that sort of mentality, Bryce, for us fantasy players out there. Next one's interesting because we did have the return of DD, and it was his teammate, someone that's gone pretty well so far. What do you think of Hungry as a nickname for Sean Tate. Do you think it suits his style of play?
Yes.
Yes?
I think it does.
Well,
He's that hustle player, and he gets hyped and all that sort of stuff. So I think Hungry is perfect.
Well, how about if I say it as Hungry Jay's Sean Tate? Have you ever seen him shoot a free throw?
No, I'm thinking Dario Hunt is bad, but is he worse?
Oh, he's pretty ordinary. It's definitely under it's in the 50% mark or something like that. So
yeah,
I reckon
each game is 3, then 2, then 1, then 4 on the last game. Ooh.
Yeah, so he's doing everything well apart from shooting those free throws. So everyone is after the Hungry Jays when the opposition. So when Sydney come to Victoria, fellas, we'll be hoping Hungry Jays Sean Tate gets a few fouls.
And just on Tate as well there, fellas, funnily enough, I think we spoke after round 1 particularly at how unique he was, how, we could have had him instead of DD as a unique, and there wasn't many that actually did, but he's actually got twice the owners of Hobson, so he's actually up to 20% owned, funnily enough, as well.
Yep. Interesting, because I'm not sure his ceiling's much more than what he's done so far. But he's been consistent so far, I guess, to a degree. So,
all right, last pool of puns, fellas. So there's a group of 4 bigs, power forwards, and centres that came in at this import price, and essentially, I want you guys to try and rank them 1 to 4 for me. But we've got Cameron Oliver. Please, sir, can I have some more? We've got get Eric Griffin your team. And Boydie did it best. What's Dario?
It's me, Dario.
Very good. And lastly, we've got Bruton Ashley. Did you actually see what happened with Brandon Ashley wearing the number 23 jersey? The retired CJ Bruton number 23 jersey?
I did see it mentioned on Twitter.
Yeah, so apparently they lost their luggage and had to do a reprint. And instead of the 21, they put the 23 on there. And it was obviously just a once-off, but... I'm just going to give a brief overview. I think that they'll all be playable on doubles. Your thoughts on that? And if you can rank them, fellas, that'd be awesome.
I agree. And that 44 in the last game from Brandon Ashley shows, because he didn't even score 10 points and had a 44. So he could be a good scorer, fantasy-wise. And the other 3, so Cam Oliver, got him in my team. Eric Griffin, like him as well. Going to have some big scores, you'd think, when he doubles, etc. Dario, probably the last one out of the bunch. So I'm going to go Oliver because I'm biased. Bashley, and then Griff, and then Bashley, and then Dario.
Thanks.
I'll probably put him in the same order. It was huge what Cam Oliver did last game. I think he's shown us his ceiling and repaid the faith, particularly for you, Boydie. Griffin's an interesting one, especially in the sort of round 7-8 period. I think Adelaide, one of the limited teams on a double, and then I think there's a round there where they're the only team on a double. So it might be interesting to start to have a little look at him. But I had liked in the 2 games over last round for Griffin particularly. So he had really, really big starts with a number of blocks in the first quarter, got himself up to, a 20-odd after the first quarter, but he just sort of couldn't kick it on in the back half of the games where we could have seen those big 50-plus scores. So I think he's got a massive ceiling. So I'd definitely rank him as second. And I think it's a bit of a toss-up between Dario and, as you say, Bashley, but I'd probably go Bashley over Dario if I had to choose. So, yeah, same rankings as you there, Boydie.
Sweet. We'll no doubt talk about them a bit more, fellas, but let's move on. Thanks very much going through that pun down. I think that's the best one yet. And it's a good little summary recapping the round just gone. Speaking of going around the grounds, let's start off with the ordinary bloke.
Mate, don't even get me started on that guy. If anyone ever deserved to be called an ordinary bloke, it's him.
That would be me. So
I've done this is it's an act of stupidity.
Carry away, Banks.
So I was the ordinary bloke this week. 603 points. That was before adjustments, so 165th overall. But I think post adjustments, I might have been pushed all the way back out to around the 200th mark overall. And look, that's a bit of a fall from grace after I think I was sitting ranked 8th after round 1. What happened to my team? So last week, I think I traded Newbull to Hobson. Obviously had to do that with Newbull on the single. And an unplanned trade for me was having to trade Boone out, who would have been my centre. So I had to trade him out, and I went with Cotton with his matchup. Outside of that, everyone on my bench was on a single. But because I was planning to have Boone at centre, I had no other option but to play Majok at centre and basically pray. And I thought I could have got a nice at least 40 out of him. But wow, that Timmy Conrad elbow has basically derailed my team over the past 2 weeks. From what I feel was, I lost 40 to 50 points from Boone in that round 2 missed game, to having Majok play for a grand total of 18 points over 2 games. So, that Boone mistake, which was unforeseeable, is probably, cost me a good 80 to 100 points and really is the reason that I've really fallen back in the rankings overall.
All right. Thanks for that, Banksy. Average bloke.
Mate, I know you think he's all right. Some of the things I've heard about this bloke, he is average at best.
All right. Me, I've moved up from being the ordinary bloke the first 2 weeks, which is good. So average bloke this week scored 653, which leaves me sitting 510th overall. I was sitting about 460 or something like that before they changed, so which was quite interesting. But anyway, so come down from 884, 884th down to 510th. Even though after adjustments, my score actually went up. But anyway, makes no sense, but we'll get there. What I did Hobson and Cotton in for Patterson and Newbull, which I was pretty happy with both trades, really, all in all. Already had K there, so he was always going to be my centre. Any failures? DD was a good risk to take, have him in the starting lineup. And Cam Oliver was my one person in the starting lineup on a single with 59, so I was pretty happy with that too. But unsure what to do this week, but we can talk about that in the preview show next.
For sure. And as you mentioned there, you almost halved your ranking, which is awesome to see. Special mention has to go out, and probably a good time to plug our article that Banksy puts a lot of work into on dreamteamtalk.com. We got the fellas a lot more engaged this year, and Calvin was one of those top blokes that got Bogut in, didn't actually make him captain, and that had the effect of moving him from 771st to a great position in 69th.
Wow, geez, that's a huge jump, even though he wasn't even captain. Wow, that's massive.
But he did flag when we put out the captain's poll. I think he actually said he was going to go with Bogut, and I think our Twitter account actually flagged that Bogut might not be playing. Yeah, hopefully we're not the reason that put him off.
No, there was even, I think, like people like legit saying that he's out. Like, yeah, it's not. It might be. It's like, yeah, he's not playing. So it wasn't just us, but hey, we keep up to date with those rankings of how us and the DT boys are going, and Calvin's no doubt jumped right up to second from second last. So nice work, Calv. Top bloke.
Now we're talking, mate. You've hit the nail on the head. That guy is a top bloke. So there's no surprise there.
No surprise there. That is Benny. Top bloke again. Had a good week. What did I get? 693 points in the end. Sitting 22nd. Boydie put me off, really. Yeah. 22nd.
Chew off 22.2 overs. Good work, Benny.
Yeah, Daniel Johnson ended up. He's the least exciting player to have on your team, but like that last rebound to get into 10 boards, little fist bump, I must admit, just to see that. He saved both of his scores in the last quarter of both games. Adelaide's yuck, to be honest. Like, a lot of the guys, you don't know where their minutes are going. And he is just a set-in-stone player that is going to play 30-plus minutes every game and score well, but he might not be in my team next week. That's a decision I have to make. So one of you fellas, we're going to do the league shout-out now.
These guys were just amazing.
Yeah, I can jump in there quickly and have a little bit of a look here. So our Basketball Blokes official league, which the code for that, if you still want to join, it's still open at the moment, is JY2D. Sugar. Let's start that again.
How about you search for Basketball Blokes?
Oh, there you go. Why don't we write that in the rundown? That'd be handy.
I think we've actually got to record you, Boydie, actually with this league code, and we can just copy and paste each week, because I think every week you've stuffed it up, much like some of those Twitter handles. Okay,
so the number one team in the league at the moment, the best team all year, Sammy Bishop, sitting on 1,766 points. Would that make him the top-ranked player overall? It is. He's the top-ranked player overall. So then, now I've gone out of it. Oh, man. Second, we've got Cam's Crusaders from Cameron Allen, sitting on 1,756 points, only 10 points behind there. And then the K-Dog, Thomas Aitken, 1,734 points there. And DDPV sitting fourth, and Lethal's Legends, Leacox, sitting at fifth. So, but it's all pretty close. Like, I think there's only about 40 points separating those top five there. So, still anyone's around at the moment. I see our top bloke for the week, Leon Santamaria's team, Benny's team, and not far off the lead, sitting 12th in our league at the moment. So that's good.
We're taking over the world, fellas. 14 of the top 20 overall players are in our league. That's pretty awesome. And we've gotten up. We had, I think, about 20 players in the top 100. That's sitting at 44 now. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a competitive league. I know Boydie's talked about prizes and different things. Maybe we'll have to try suss something out. But, Banks, the other close competition that we're looking at is the Redhage Santamaria Cup. How we going there? What's the update between Nate Stremple, Liam Santamaria, overtime versus the basketball show? And I've actually chucked in Tommy Hertz there as well, because he's obviously a NBL personality. So how are they all looking, mate?
That's it, Benny. And look, they're seemingly making their move. So Stremple's Studs actually leading the bunch now. So he's up to, unless it's been adjusted, 253rd overall. Has that changed since then, Benny?
231st.
231st. Okay. And Tom Herr's not far behind. So, again, I think that might have adjusted. He was at 306 prior to adjustments. And then not far behind was obviously last season's overall winner, Liam Santamaria, into 342nd. But there's, I think, 20 points separating the three. So it's a really good matchup. Yeah.
So let them know, guys, out there on the Twitter sphere. We're trying to build this up, and we want to see who takes it out. And game day, I think we all suck. Yeah, I had a quick look at the rankings. Like I've been like horrible, hundreds every game. No one had any luck there.
I think I was doing okay. Yeah, and I was doing okay, I think, after the first 2 days, and the third day I forgot to put my team in, so I sort of gave up after that. So I think that the lesson learned there is, if you can, get all your teams in for the whole round at one time,
and then adjust it if you need to during the round.
That's it.
All right. Moving on to the King Legend Award.
What a King Legend.
Now, fellas, we need to log on to Twitter here. We're on the video, because I think we might have to consult the procedures, to be honest. Any of you boys got Twitter up there? Do we still have a tie?
No, we do not have a tie. We have... You got a drum roll for me?
No, I've got a drum roll for Banksy's captain's net tomorrow. But...
So the King Legend voting for the round has finished with 127 votes overall. 40% Nick K. 39% Andrew Bogart.
No.
Nick K.
You're kidding. The King Legend himself will not be happy.
Obviously with Boga being not as much owned, I think that's what's come to there.
Yeah, look, fellas, at the time we started recording this, it was 40-40. It was close, and I was going to have to consult the book. And clause 10.10 says that in a result of a tiebreaker, Andrew Bogut, who the award was named after, Andrew Michael Bogut, born 28th November 1984, wins. So,
fair call.
Very happy that we don't have to go to such lengths. And Nick K, makes us feel a bit better, right?
That's right.
All right, Holt.
If I
My team doesn't have any Holt Award players in it, mate. So how about you guys talk about it?
All right, so we've got JLA, a standout leader on 58%. Now, the next one, I'm going to scratch my head a little bit. DD, 18%. Come on, what are people expecting?
I want him to repay the faith, Brendan.
Agreed.
If it was his first game, he ain't going to get 150s like Bogut is. Anyway, I thought 58 on a double was a pretty good start for him. But anyway, followed by Majuk closely third, 16%. So that's Banksy's man.
All right, so
Banksy's got two of those. Ooh, yuck.
No, look, I do have him in my team. I was going to discuss what we're going to do with JLA, but if you're listening to this, make sure you tune in to our preview podcast. Now, you may actually be viewing this by YouTube. It is something we've put the link on our Twitter. So we had a little test run last time, took a little bit of feedback, and hopefully this will come out a little bit better. So yeah, check us out there. But we're hoping to get the podcast out, YouTube out tonight. I'll stay up nice and late to get that done. Boydie, do you want to plug the normal socials, bud?
Yeah, so Twitter, we're at bball_blokes, and on Facebook, just basketball space blokes. And always check out our DT Talk article, which goes up on dreamteamtalk.com. Last little bit from you, Benny.
Yeah, just it's a nice little spot. It's your one-stop shop with both our podcasts embedded in it, with a nice little write-up there, with a lot of hard work put in it by Banksy. So until next time, fellas, it's only be a couple of days. I'll see you tomorrow night, hey? Fellas, I think that went really well. Stop the recording.